that the nation's budget is an expression of our collective values as a nation. And so far, the budget that we have to begin our debate with is not one that I think shares those collective values. Every day here at Rutgers brings doctors and scientists, faculty, staff, and students together to find new cures and improve public health, to drive innovation and pioneer new treatments, to ease the suffering of patients, and ultimately to save lives. I'm here today for a simple reason, to defend the federal funding that helps make it all possible. So first, let me take a look at what's going on in Washington. I had hoped that the new administration would propose a budget that reflected priorities shared by all Americans, like strengthening public education, like rebuilding outdated infrastructure, like creating more good-paying jobs in fast-growing STEM fields, like precision medicine and biologics. Unfortunately, the President has given us a preliminary budget that is not only light on details, but I believe devoid of empathy and vision. In the name of security, the President adds billions to our military budget, and I'm for a strong national defense, but we spend more than the next 7 countries combined after us. And if you think about some of those nations, who they are, it's pretty significant. And they do that while reducing investments that I believe make our states safer, our students smarter, our families healthier, and our economy more competitive. So if budgets are moral blueprints for the country, then this budget is morally bankrupt. And among its most offensive provisions is an 18% cut to the National Institutes of Health. We currently give the NIH about $32 billion a year. And that $32 billion comes after a decade between 2003 and 2013 in which stagnant budgets and inflation shrunk the NIH's purchasing power by 20%. And now, just after a year or so, when I and others, I sit on the Senate Finance Committee that deals with all health-related issues, particularly for revenue sources, after a year that we provided a long overdue boost to the NIH budget, and months after an overwhelming bipartisan majority authorized funding to the 21st Century Cures Act, we have the President asking us to slash NIH's budget for the remainder of 2017 by $1.2 billion and then cut another $5.8 billion in 2018. Now, I don't think anyone who cast a ballot last November, regardless of who they cast it for, did so in the hopes that Congress would fund fewer clinical trials for cancer patients, or cut back on research into addiction, or show America how we get to the race to cure Alzheimer's disease a lot quicker. Most Americans believe in the promise of science to solve big problems and change people's lives for the better. They know that our economy is the most innovative in the world, thanks in large part to our national investments in basic research. It's the kind of research that is too risky and expensive for any one private company to take on. But it has the potential to transform entire industries, to change millions of lives, and to save our country billions of dollars in healthcare costs over the long term. It was federally funded basic research that led to the discovery of the first human cancer gene, that led scientists to synthesize penicillin for the first time, that led engineers to build the MRI machine. And it is this kind of forward-looking basic research that will lead us to the breakthroughs of the 21st century. I want those breakthroughs to take place right here in New Jersey. In 2016 alone, our state received over $240 million in grants and contracts from the National Institutes of Health. Those funds supported nearly 5,000 jobs across New Jersey. It spurred over $890 million in economic activity. And the funding has an even broader impact on our economy. It keeps New Jersey at the forefront of biomedical innovation. With nearly 2,500 businesses competing in the biopharmaceutical space, that together employs 86,000 New Jerseyans every year. And nationwide, the NIH is an economic powerhouse for our country, supporting over 380,000 scientists, researchers, and support staff, driving $65 billion in economic activity each year. That's a nearly 2-to-1 return on our investment, an investment that promotes economic growth, creates jobs in high-paying fields, and benefits us all with life-saving, cost-saving medical research. So I'm pleased that several of my Senate colleagues have already publicly opposed these cuts as I have, yet there are others who still say they support funding for medical research so long as we offset that spending cut with other vital priorities. In other words, they say, we can fund clinical trials for new cancer drugs so long as we stop funding the EPA. Never mind that the EPA limits our exposure to cancer-causing toxins pumped into our atmosphere with pollution every day. Or we can fund new studies into the science of addiction so long as we slash Pell Grants for low-income college students. Never mind that we'll never find the cures of tomorrow if we don't invest in the students of today. So we can't afford this type of narrow thinking, and certainly not now. Proposing such massive cuts sends a message to some of our nation's most brilliant minds that their life's work is not a national priority, that the research they've dedicated their hearts and minds to, research that could have helped my mother in her fight against her Alzheimer's that ultimately took her life, or a terminally ill child a shot at a healthy, happy life, is not worthy of federal investment. And it sends a message to every student toiling away in a chemistry or biology lab that they may want to look elsewhere if they want a career curing disease and saving lives. That is not a message I want to send, nor is it one that I believe that shares our collective values as a country. There's no greater return on the investments we make in the NIH than the breakthroughs that help Americans lead happier, healthier, and more productive lives. For all the economic equations of the NIH, which are powerful, I can't think of a more powerful set of equations than those of the lives of our fellow Americans that we touch. That's why I'm proud to fight for Rutgers University and for every research center across the country that keeps us at the forefront of scientific progress. Because as Americans grow older, as chronic diseases become more prevalent, as healthcare grows more expensive, our need for new cures and therapies will only grow more urgent. Now is the time to invest in science so that America remains the world leader in discovery and innovation. Now is the time to invest in life-saving cures that will save lives and save billions of dollars in the years ahead. And now is the time for members in both chambers of Congress and in both political parties to stand up and defend federal funding for medical research. Why? Because disease has no political agenda, because health disorders have no partisan affiliation, because the heartbreak of losing a loved one to cancer or to addiction or to Alzheimer's, as I did, is universal. That's the case we're making today for medical research, for cures, for innovation, for jobs, for scientific progress, for a healthier, more sustainable, more competitive America in the 21st century.
On the tour this morning, cancer centers like ours depend heavily on funding from the National Institutes of Health. It supports our basic clinical, population, and translational research, which is how we're able to move observations and discoveries from the laboratory to actually impact the lives of our patients and our citizens. The funding enables groundbreaking discoveries to be translated from the laboratory to the clinic, impacting patients here in New Jersey as well as around the globe. New Jersey ranks high in cancer incidence, with approximately 50,000 new cancer cases each year in the state and 16,000 deaths due to cancer. Rutgers Cancer Institute in New Jersey is among an elite group of only 47 National Cancer Institute designated comprehensive cancer centers, and we're the only one in the state of New Jersey. As such, we are New Jersey's research for and leader in cancer research, prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and survivorship, providing patients across the state and across the country with the most advanced treatment options, many of which are only available at NCI-designated cancer centers. NCI-funded and NIH-funded research and clinical trials are a large part of the reason that we are making such tremendous strides in the field of cancer, a disease that impacts so many. While we have already made great progress, we still have a lot to learn about the biology of cancer, how to better screen for cancer, prevent cancer from occurring, and every question we ask and successfully answer leads to 3 more questions that we have to then address. We embrace and integrate all the components of understanding, and we attempt to make progress with cancer. But in order to keep moving this forward, we need continued and sustainably increased support for cancer research from the NIH and from its component institutes. Rutgers Cancer Institute has been a leader in cutting-edge cancer research efforts along with other NCI centers throughout the United States, leading to improved approaches and treatment options to the point where today more than 12 million Americans are cancer survivors. And cancer mortality rates are steadily decreasing. In fact, approximately 70% of adults are living 5 or more years now, which is an increase of 50% since 1975. Although the projected increases in the number of new cancer cases and the sheer complexity of cancer are daunting, we have never been better positioned to capitalize on our understanding of what causes this disease and what drives cancer. And by understanding that, we have never been better positioned to actually impact those mechanisms in a way to save more lives. It's an exciting time to be an oncologist and a cancer researcher. Our technologies and treatments continue to evolve with areas such as precision medicine, immunotherapy. We're getting closer and closer to a cure for a disease that impacts so many of our citizens. The Precision Medicine program here at Rutgers Cancer Institute of New Jersey aims to answer the question, why is a treatment for certain cancers effective for one patient but not for another, through assessing the actual genes that were responsible for driving that cancer. In 2013, we opened one of the first precision medicine clinical trials in the country that used genomic sequencing to identify the exact abnormalities in a patient's tumor, resulting in tailored treatments for each patient. Close to 1,000 patients have participated in this trial to date, and in those results, we are seeing groundbreaking and truly transformative ways to diagnose and treat cancer. Also, here at Rutgers Cancer Institute of New Jersey, we are developing a statewide program in vaccine and immune therapy that is engaging scientists throughout the state, developing strong relationships with the pharmaceutical industry that's based in New Jersey, and the other biotech companies that help to put the state of New Jersey at the forefront of driving discovery and translation in immunotherapy. It's a transformational time in cancer research, one where collaboration among scientists is at the crux of our progress in cancer care and helping us to achieve greater impact that leads to improved patient outcomes. By reducing or even keeping NIH funding at the current levels, we are putting that progress in jeopardy. Such a reduction in funding will cause a ripple effect among cancer researchers and universities, impacting the thousands of individuals dealing with cancer today, as well as the many whom have yet to be diagnosed. Senator Menendez, on behalf of our researchers and our patients, I thank you for your leadership in this area and for your continued support of the Rutgers Cancer Institute of New Jersey and for your advocacy for sustained increases in cancer funding at NIH. Thank you so much for being here. Dr. Aston-Jones? Yeah.
I'm here today because of cancer research funded by the National Institutes of Health. The successful treatment of my cancer here at the Rutgers Cancer Institute was key to my survival. I was first diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer in 2005, one of over 700 women diagnosed that year in the state. After my surgery, I took part in a clinical research trial, 9 chemotherapy cycles, and I learned I was disease-free. When my tumor returned in 2008, I had surgery, 6 more rounds of chemotherapy, and once again was disease-free. The treatments I underwent were available to me because of research supported by the NIH. In the almost 12 years since I was first diagnosed, I've seen major developments in treating cancers like mine, all due to research funded by the federal government. In 2006, a study was released that said intraperitoneal chemotherapy offered women a survival benefit. We know this because of NIH-funded research. In 2011, the Cancer Genome Atlas, a project funded by the NIH, by the way, identified new mutations linked to ovarian cancer. The knowledge led to new treatments and new treatment strategy, and we know this because of NIH-funded research. We saw the FDA approve a number of new therapies specifically for ovarian cancer. They had reduced toxicity and improved anti-cancer efficacy. These treatments are in place because of NIH funding. We saw the FDA, today we are also now looking at developing immunotherapies for ovarian cancer. These new developments are really because of NIH-funded research. A proposed 18% reduction will stagnate research. It'll reduce the number of investigators, it's been mentioned many times before, to help us try to understand the causes of the disease and develop cures for many types of cancer. This, in turn, will impact the lives of residents in New Jersey who have been or will be diagnosed with cancer. Being disease-free did not prevent me from participating in clinical trials. My tumor underwent next-generation sequencing as part of the precision medicine trial here at the Cancer Institute. I discussed the results with my gynecologic oncologist. I know I have an actionable mutation. I can target it if I should reoccur, which I hope doesn't happen. But there are other mutations that currently do not have targeted therapies. The need to develop these therapies is what makes cancer research so important. I'm also a board member of the local Kaleidoscope of Hope Ovarian Cancer Foundation, and I've seen the impacts grants can make on the career development of young cancer investigators. Many of those same researchers that KOH supported have gone on to receive grants from the NIH. The federal government support of these young researchers, especially those that want to learn how to treat rare diseases, is very important to me and other women who may have gynecologic cancers. This also was mentioned before. Cancer is not partisan. It doesn't care what religion you are, the color of your skin, your age, your sexual preference, your ethnicity. The only way we as a country can learn how to reduce our risk for disease, find better treatments, ultimately find a cure and support those with the disease is through cancer research funded by the NIH. Thank you.